Today on Politics Unplugged, not that long ago, he was a high school Republican, occupying the governor's office and demanding gun reform. Now he's trying to help Democrats flip the legislature. We speak with him. Governor Katie Hobbs finally made it official. She picked a former Republican as her running mate. And scientists are nerding out over Senator Mark Kelly's possible run for the White House. The panel wades through it all now on Politics Unplugged.
Good evening. I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. And Arizona Democrats are hopeful this year they'll take control of the legislature. And our first guest is hoping to ride that blue wave into office. Jacob Martinez joins us now, and he's running for the State House in District 9, which is basically Central Mesa.
West Mesa, east part of Tempe.
Yeah, so before we get into like who you are, and we tease there, you used to be the high school Republican guy. I first met you about 8 years ago. Yeah. You and a bunch of your classmates were upset and were demanding gun reform. This was after the Parkland shooting. Mm-hmm. How did you go from being the high school Republican kid occupying governor's offices to coming to running for the legislature?
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is, you know, at the time when I was just a young little teenager running around, we were scared. That's what it came down to. We were scared and we wanted to see something done. And, you know, as chairman of the Teenage Republicans at the time, I thought that there'd be a possibility to have dialogue about these issues, to work with the Republican legislature and try and do something about it. And as I'm sure you remember, we got shut out. The governor wouldn't talk to us, the legislature wouldn't talk to us. And as a result, you know, in wanting to try and actually enact change and pass policy that helps people, that's how we find ourselves here today.
Well, I mean, the governor may have shut you out and didn't talk to you, but you know, the legislature, the Republican legislature, ended up shutting Ducey out on this, because you remember the red flag laws he tried to pass. He introduced those, and they were roundly rejected. But so I'm just going to ask you now. It's been 8 years. You're a much different person. You're a grown man now. Is gun reform still an issue if you're elected to the legislature? Are you still going to make this a priority, and what would you be proposing?
I think there's absolutely a conversation to be had about it, especially when it comes to something as simple as background checks. Universal background checks, it's something that a majority of this country supports, and all it does is enforce the laws that we already have on the books. And so if elected, and if Democrats are fortunate enough to take the majority in the legislature this upcoming session, I think it's absolutely something we're going to have to put on the table. Okay,
and let's talk a little bit about your broader agenda. I was looking at your website and seeing that you're running on affordability and things like that. So specifically, what kinds of policies, you know, if you're elected, what kind of policies would you be looking to really pursue? What kind of bills would you be looking to write?
As a Gen Zer running for the legislature, I think the prevailing issue of my generation is going to be housing. I just graduated from law school. In a perfect world, I should be able to afford a house just fine. But because of the market that we're in, young people, millennials and Gen Z, and even retired folks are struggling to be able to afford the cost of housing. And something that I think we're going to have on the table that is bipartisan and that both sides can get on board with is banning corporate ownership of single family homes. We see people from New York and Wall Street come in, they buy up all the housing, make nominal improvements, and then sell it at 200% the price. That has no room in Arizona, where we're trying to make sure that we're fostering environments where families can afford homes and people coming out of college can afford homes.
What about people like maybe in your situation? I don't know what your specific situation is, but you're coming out of law school. You may or may not have debt for paying for school. What about student loan forgiveness plans like that?
I think everything's on the table. That's not something that I've looked at specifically, but at this point, because of the situation we're in, because of the dire situation that families, again, not just young people, but all across the board are in right now, I don't think we can put anything off of the table. We have to come in with a full-fledged approach on how are we going to make Arizona more affordable for not just families, but everybody. Because whether you're a senior on a fixed income, a high school student, or someone that just graduated, people are struggling to afford their groceries, their health care, and their housing. And that's something that the legislature can and should be doing something to address.
And one of the other things that Arizona should be addressing here is one of the top issues is water. Obviously, Arizona is looking at severe cuts to the Colorado River water, and you know if they get too severe, this could be really traumatic for the local economy, the state economy, the local economy here in the Valley. Have you looked at this? Have you any idea what needs to be done to protect Arizona's water rights and keep the economy going?
We have to get our groundwater under control. We have to know what's going on. And thankfully, we've had leaders like Attorney General Chris Mays, who, when an alfalfa farm from Saudi Arabia was using up as much groundwater as they pleased, she got involved, she stepped in, she filed a nuisance suit so that we could address that. But really what that shows is a lack of a law on the books to cover scopes, in areas where they maybe didn't anticipate in 1980. People would be, pumping wells and putting up.
Been a long time since 1980 when they passed those.
We've grown a lot. We've grown, I think, far more than anyone in 1980 would have ever anticipated. And so we need to modernize what we're thinking when it comes to water and the scope of this act to really make sure that we're making sure that all of Arizona is covered and we're really being diligent about who's pumping water and how is it being used. Okay,
let's talk a little bit, get into some education stuff here. Governor Hobbs has campaigned her first time, promised every year she was in the legislature, tried to rein in ESAs. That hasn't happened. Is this something, we're talking about the school voucher program here. It sends taxpayer money, gives it to parents so they can send their kids to private schools. Would you be looking, if the Democrats took control of the legislature, to rein that in? And if so, how would you do that?
I think we have to be. I mean, I think it's important to note there's a ballot initiative, Prop 212, which is attempting to put some guardrails around the universal ESA program to ensure accountability and to make sure that, funds are being used for education, right? Because we've seen the stories of funding going just about anywhere, whether it's lingerie or diamond rings, and that's unacceptable. But even more so, if we're able to take the majority in the legislature this year, the Democrats have to be willing to look at ESA and not only ensure accountability, but how can we support public schools? Because public schools are the backbone of our community. I would be nothing without the public schools that I went to. And so we need to make sure we're adequately funding them and giving educators the resources they need.
So bigger picture, I think I asked a fellow Democrat last week on this show, how confident are you that Democrats really can take the legislature this year? I've been doing this for a long time, and it seems like every 2 years Democrats are saying, this is the year, and it never happens. So if I'm a skeptic, there's a lot of viewers I know that are skeptics, convince us that, yes, this is the year that Democrats can take control of the legislature, and tell me why you think that's possible.
People are struggling right now. In 2024, they voted in anticipation that things were going to get better. They thought the cost of housing would go down, the cost of gas, that we wouldn't be involved in foreign conflicts. Yet the exact opposite of it is true. And in Arizona, the legislature could be trying to address affordability, but instead they're focused on political grandstanding and passing bills that do nothing to create an Arizona that we can all afford. And so when I'm out at doors every single day talking to voters, I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that they're angry and that they want to change. This legislature we've had a Republican-led legislature since 1960 in the House, right? And we have nothing to show for it. And so voters are ready for a change. They're ready to see their communities get more affordable. And I think that there has never been a time like right now for Democrats in the state to actually take the legislature and pass policy that's going to help people, because they haven't done that, and we're ready.
Well, and let's wrap on this. You're young, you're Gen Z, you're Democrat. Give us your thoughts on Democratic Socialists. Is this good for your party? Is this, do they have views that you support and would get behind? What's your views on that?
I think at this point, there's room for everybody in the Democratic Party. We have to be willing to take a little bit of each sect of the party, which I think is evident with Governor Hobbs picking John Giles as her lieutenant governor. Whether it's Democratic Socialists, whether it's former Republicans or it's current Republicans, there's room for everybody here, because everybody, despite what you might think about their broader ideals, they have something to contribute. They have ideas they can contribute, and we need to be fostering those environments so that people feel welcomed here, because that's not the case on the other side. And so if we're a party for everybody, we need to actually emulate that and work together to create an Arizona that's for everybody.
All right, I want to thank you for stopping by here, and thanks for coming along. But still ahead, it was the worst kept secret in politics, but now it's officially out there. Governor Hobbs has picked a former Republican mayor to be her running mate. I'll bring in our panel to talk about all of that when Politics Unplugged continues.
Governor Hobbs makes it official. A judge dismisses the fake elector case, And science fuels speculation about Senator Mark Kelly's future. This is your political roundup for the week. Governor Hobbs picked a former Republican turned independent to be her running mate. The governor chose ex-Mesa Mayor John Giles. The move sets up a bipartisan ticket as voters prepare to elect the state's first lieutenant governor. A Maricopa County judge dismissed Arizona's fake elector case, but left open the possibility of future criminal charges. 2 years ago, Attorney General Chris Mays filed charges against 11 people accused of trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. A group working to elect scientists is geeking out over former astronaut and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. The president of the 314 Action Fund said they'd back Kelly on day one if he jumps into the 2028 presidential race. The liberal group has reportedly raised big money over the past decade. And former Marine Joanna Mendoza is one of the candidates Democrats are counting on to flip the U.S. House. But she's now dealing with some controversy. The Arizona Republic reported that she wrongfully took a property tax credit that saved her a few $100 a year. Mendoza is challenging incumbent Juan Ciscomani in Arizona's 6th congressional district. And that was your political roundup for the week.
Let's bring in our panel now to talk about all of that. Republican consultant Marcus Dellartino, sorry, I can't speak this week, and Democrat Matt Grotzky. Thanks for being here, guys. And let's start with Marcus's favorite topic. Third week in a row, we're talking about the governor's pick for lieutenant governor. Worst kept secret in politics, but maybe a great PR move in her part, because we've been talking about this, not just us, but everybody else has been talking about this for about 2 straight weeks now.
Well, I'd go 2.5 to 3, but unless you've been living in a hole and somehow don't have internet coverage, the governor's picked former Mayor John Giles to be her running mate, and it seems to be all that anybody can talk about for the last 3 weeks, which ordinarily, I wouldn't mind it. I just want to move on into a different subject area. I think we spent, maybe 12 hours talking about Andy Biggs, the Republican candidate for governor, and his pick for lieutenant governor, former Senator Kerr, and now we're on 3 weeks. So yeah, I would say it's probably a pretty good PR move if we've been talking about it this long.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about the race and Andy Biggs and his pick for lieutenant governor, Sena Kerr. Where do you see this race standing right now? I mean, last week there was a poll out showing that Biggs was down by 8 points. It doesn't look like Biggs has any money coming in to make any kind of arguments or really wage a robust campaign at this point. Are you feeling comfortable at this point that Democrat Hobbs is sitting in a really good position?
Yeah, you asked where the race stands. I think the governor is standing on Andy Biggs' throat at this stage. If you look at the polling, you look at the fundraising situation. And yeah, I agree. Great PR move. We're going on about 3 weeks here. And had you not said the name of Andy Biggs' running mate, I don't think most Arizonans would remember who that is. So I think she's in a good position. However, Democrats can't get too comfortable. You got to run through the finish line here. You can't take anything for granted, and I imagine the campaign is going to continue to do that.
Well, to Matt's point, I mean, there's a new poll out this morning that's only got her up by 4 points, and it's got the Secretary of State, Andrea Infantes, up by 1 point with zero advertising. So, if Democrats think that they have this locked up, I'm going to tell you that they're sadly mistaken. There's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of time left that, campaigns can respond.
Well, you start, it's almost evenly divided, and you're just now, general elections, I think, are over. Just a small handful of persuadable voters, moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, some independents out there. Remember, Hobbs only won by 17,000 votes 4 years ago. Mays was even less, about 280 votes that she won her race by. So we are in a really polarized state. But I want to ask you, what can Biggs do now to try to change the narrative? Because it is starting to look like he's not getting that money, and there are polls that show that he is behind. What can he do at this point without any money to really change the dynamic of the race?
Well, one of the things I would tell you is if you look over the last 4 years, one of the dynamics that's already changed that he doesn't have to work on is Republican registration has increased. And so that gap has gotten harder, certainly for Governor Hobbs and for Democrats throughout the state to gain on. 1. 2, he has to get up on TV and start getting his message set. 3, he needs to move those younger voters and those independents, start seeing if he can make some inroads with those independents. And certainly, I mean, look, he's got the older, 50 plus, 55 plus lockdown. That's his sweet spot. He needs to move with the independents and women.
And potential problems for the Hobbs campaign. I mean, she is currently under criminal investigation, and she's not meeting with the Attorney General at this point to talk about that case. It involves an alleged pay-to-play scheme out there. Is this a potential liability for the governor moving forward?
No, I think to Marcus's point, unless it's on TV and there's a bunch of ads for it, most people aren't going to know that that's even a liability at this stage, right? So I think, look, what Andy Biggs needs is he really needs a time machine to go back and change his voting record in January 6th and potentially maybe even his lieutenant governor pick, because when you pick these things, they need to be additive, right? I mean, the governor's pick, adds a coalition to her plate, right? You're going to go get those moderate Republicans that don't feel like they have a home in the current Republican Party. Biggs's pick doesn't do that. So got to get up on TV, got to appeal across the aisle. I don't think he's going to be able to do that.
And one thing I wanted to ask you too real quick about Chris Mays. I mean, the judge dismissed the fake elector case. This was started 2 years ago. The case was, but this goes all the way back to 2020. Is this a liability for Chris Mays? Because again, there was a lot of attention brought to this case, and at the end of the day, it has been booted out of court, with the possibility that she could come back and file new charges if she's able to get indictments.
She can come back and file new charges. I don't think it's a liability. I think most Arizonans recognize that the fake elector's position was wrong. And I think they understand that you don't want to set a precedent where now you can forge documents and go and try to get fake election results if you're mad about the outcome, right? You don't want to tell future people that are bad actors that, oh, it's fine, there's no consequences for that. So I think most voters get that. We'll have to see what plays out on the legal side.
And, let's wrap right here. Do you agree with Matt there that this isn't a liability for the Attorney General?
Look, was Chris Mays going to get Republican votes? Doubtful. So I wouldn't say it's a liability for her. I don't think it's swayable with those swayable voters.
She's going to get a few Republicans. That's all she needs.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break. But when we come back, a group of scientists would love to see an astronaut in the White House, and they're ready to put their money on the line when Politics Unplugged continues. And to get more in-depth on the issues, check out the Politics Unplugged podcast. This week, I'm joined by reporter Wayne Schutsky from KJZZ. The Politics Unplugged podcast drops every Sunday evening wherever you get your podcasts. And let's bring the panel back in right now. Thanks for sticking around. Let's talk a little bit about Mark Kelly. We teased in the earlier roundup package, there's a group of scientists, or a group that wants to get scientists elected to the White House. They say they've got his back on day one if and when he decides to run for the White House. He was stumping for Senate candidates, U.S. Senate candidates in Florida, and he was in Iowa. Now, he has said that he was considering a run for president, but it sounds like maybe a little bit more than considering. What do you think?
I think it's great if he's considering it. I think it's great that he's out there because he's popular, right? People want a popular guy who's a veteran, who's an astronaut, to come and stump for them in a crucial midterm year. And, it doesn't surprise me that scientists want an astronaut to be in the White House potentially. So, breaking news.
And thoughts on this? I mean, you went through this a few years back with John McCain, getting ready to ramp up a presidential run. You see him as taking those same steps, getting ready, that he's kind of like, I know he said he's thinking about running, but maybe he's more further along the process than maybe what he's saying publicly.
I will say what John used to say, and I'm paraphrasing here because it's not perfect, but it's like, if you have a pulse in the U.S. Senate, you're probably running for president of the United States. So I absolutely infer that he's running. Nobody goes to Iowa just for the fun of it.
Come on,
no offense.
Now.
Unless it's for
do
a
not
football
besmirch
game.
my home
But
state.
Look, I think it's pretty clear he's looking to see if he can build a ground game, if he can get some national support here, and be a contender.
All right. And on the first segment here, we had a young candidate trying to help Democrats flip the legislature. This is a question that comes up every couple of years. You're involved in some of those campaigns. How do you see this? What do you think the real possibility is that could happen this year? Because I am skeptical, and I know Marcus is skeptical.
I like that people are skeptical. I think it's healthier to be skeptical because then you have more of a motivator to get out there and vote, right? I mean, as a consultant, I've seen this. It feels like deja vu, like we're always there in striking distance. I think there's more districts in play this time than there normally would be because of the unpopularity in the White House, and that's trickling down to other Republicans. The key is messaging to make sure people fill out their entire ballot, right? Like if you only vote the top of the ticket and then you don't fill the rest out or you switch parties, right? You're literally hamstringing what you did at the top. So I think that's the education factor we got to do to those crucial swing voters.
That sounds like a really tough task because you're asking, again, you keep mentioning too, and this is something you can't overlook, there's a lot more registered Republicans in this state than Democrats, about 350,000 more. And what you're asking them to do at the top of the ticket is cross over, vote for a Democrat. And then you're asking them to keep doing that as they go down the line there. Tough task, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, what we say is there's a guilt factor involved here for Republicans. You know, you may cross the line at the governor's race, but by the time you get about 2 or 3 races down, you want to come home to your party. And so it's a tougher task than it would seem. You know, a lot of psychology involved here, but also most importantly, a lot of turnout. And so the question remains, and look, everybody's going to put out a poll in the next couple days. And the art of the deal here is not doing a poll. A monkey can do a poll. The art of the deal is estimating what the turnout model is going to be. That's the art of the deal. And so the question is, are independents going to show up at 28%? Are they going to show up at 30% or 32%? Are Democrats going to show up, and what percentage is that, and what are the Republican percentages?
And what are you seeing? You're working behind the scenes in some of these races. I mean, how do you expect the turnout to be, and what is it going to look like?
I think the Democrats are going to be fired up. They're going to turn out, right? I think independents, from polling I've seen, you know, they're very dissatisfied with what they're getting out of Republican leadership, right? But to Marcus's point, it's about turning them out and giving them a reason to come out and vote their entire ballot, right? So that's what we've got to do as Democrats and message. And you're right, it is hard, right? It's definitely not easy. That's why we haven't done it yet. But if there was ever a time to do it, it's now. So it's heads down and fingers crossed.
All right, and then you know, in the congressional races, one of the key races is down in southern Arizona, and where Joanna Mendoza is challenging Juan Ciscomani, the incumbent down there. She got herself in a little bit of hot water. There's reporting in the Arizona Republic that she wrongfully took a property home tax credit. It was related to education funding out there. Is this something that is going to hurt her in this district and in this race?
Well, I would tell you that, and by the way, if you're renting out your property, you're probably guilty of doing this too. Most Arizonans are not doing this proactively. And so, honestly, I think that this is an attention-getting moment. Obviously, she did something wrong. She's correcting it. But when voters are reflecting at their kitchen table, some of them who are, by the way, violating the same statute, they're thinking about their affordability is what they're thinking about. And that's what Republicans need the response on. And where are beef prices? When I go to the grocery store, my bill is doubled or, you know, whatever. Everything's gotten more expensive, and that's where Republicans need to counterpoint. I don't think that this attacks the magic bullet. Does it help? Sure. Is it the magic bullet? No.
No, and the headline's not good. I mean, if you look beyond the headline on this, is like what? She benefited like $400 every year for the past couple of years. And I have heard Democrats say, like, well, this is small potatoes compared to some of the corruption we've seen on the national level. Like, sure, fine, but this is a kind of a local race when you start talking about congressional races. You know, how do you see this playing out down there?
I think if we were in the other timeline, right, where we weren't in this Trump universe, maybe. People don't care about that right now. To Marcus's point, they care about affordability, issues that impact them. You know, I think she's taken steps to remedy this. I just don't see this being a hot button issue for the remainder of the race. And if that's all Ciscomani's got, that's not great for him.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for this week, but be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged. Good night.